Hi, this is Dan Kubacki, Senior Editor of Hotel News Now, here in Atlanta for the Hunter Hotel Investment Conference. We're at the final day here on Thursday, but I'm here with Natalie Harms, reporter at Hotel News Now. And Natalie, you just joined Hotel News Now back in January, right?
Right.
And tell us a little about yourself. You are in Houston and still
hmm
live in Houston and joined us for this conference in Atlanta. But what did you cover before hotels?
Yeah, so I've been a business reporter for about 10 years, so brand new to the hotel industry. Before I was covering in Houston tech, startups, and clean energy. So quite a pivot. I will say I loved all of those beats, and it was going to be hard to find one that I also loved as much. And I think the hotel industry has some potential. So been a very big conference of learning and meeting people for me.
So, what would you say your first impression of the hotel industry is from this conference, from the first few months covering it?
Pretty hospitable, which is apt. Everyone, it's a people business, and I really do appreciate that. And learning the way the business works has been very enlightening. I don't think I had ever thought about how the hotel industry worked, so it's been very cool to learn it.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get into some of our takeaways from the Hunter Conference. Obviously it's March. We're a couple months into the second Trump administration, and we had some different takeaways from this conference than I think our colleagues that attended Alice in January in Los Angeles did. So, what were some of the things that stood out to you from these couple days in Atlanta?
Yeah, what a difference 2 months makes, because it could not be more different of what our colleagues had to say about Alice and the positivity and the admitting that there are some headwinds in 2025. But I do think what we're hearing now is those headwinds are quite different from what everyone was expecting. Uncertainty has defined the entire conference, like it is center stage at pretty much every session I sat on. And I do appreciate the fact that, hotel owners, brands, everyone was talking about it. I think it'd be pretty easy to say, well, we don't know. But, they're making changes already to their business for
Mm-hmm.
2025.
There's been some level of nobody knows, but there is definitely hedging, like you said, hedging their bet, hedging their investments, starting to think of that contingency plan for if things go downhill rather quickly. I think one of the stats was a lot of people were quoting Oxford economics economist Larry Summers, I think, that he just upgraded his recession forecast from like 20 or 30% to like 50%. I think that was like by the end of the year or something like that. So that, to people were still silent in the room when all of those kind of, talk was happening about, well, do we say recession? Do we say the R word? Like it's, it's a lot more real, I think, is my big takeaway, that it's no longer a maybe. It's a well, it could happen. It's a lot more. It could be just around the corner, I guess, is the best way to phrase it. What were some of the other things, speakers or panels, sessions that kind of stood out to you?
Yeah, I think a couple of them. I was very interested to see how AI came into the conversation, and we're talking about it in a lot of different ways, of course, but to see those specific ways and to see how hotel industry players are thinking about it, that was a really interesting one. So I'm going to dive in and do some more reporting on AI, which I love.
Yeah, you are the person to dig into AI as a background as a tech reporter for sure. I thought the numbers panel, kind of the drill down of the data. We heard from CoStar, STR, we heard from AirDNA, CBRE, Calibri Labs. Each of them, kind of looked at the biggest factors that, the data that they're seeing that could be, um, affecting the hotel industry. Their, demand trends. I think Jan Freitag, he talked about there's a lot fewer Canadians coming into the U.S. in February is down like 2.5%, and he's like, hey, this is not a blip. This could be a trend. And then from the CBRE standpoint, Robert Mandelbaum was talking about kind of expense growth and GOP, and there's a lot of talk of expenses always continue to go up, and inflation kind of has been hovering around the same point. Wages have gone up, and there was another interesting point about if there is, layoffs or immigration plays a role in that, housekeeper availability or any type of, filling positions, because the hotel industry has been very understaffed for the past couple of years since the pandemic, since there were a lot of layoffs and furloughs and everything. And, if there's more to come, there's more layoffs to come, like how much more can you cut? And could the hotel industry lose even more employees? Could those employees go elsewhere, get a higher pay, and then, a year and a half from now, 2 years, the hotel industry has to raise wages again just to stay competitive? I thought that was a very compelling thing. Like, hey, politics, take all that out of the equation. This is kind of the reality of how your business might be affected. So that was a big takeaway for me.
Yeah, I think the message to budget for these types of changes before you even know if they're for sure going to happen. That was something that Pete Patel with Nexera said. He's budgeting on his upcoming construction projects. He's budgeting like he will be expected to pay these tariffs, because currently that looks like that's where it's going. And then, kind of, I think the takeaway from one of the opening sessions, which was Mitch Patel with Vision Hospitality, he said, you got to figure out if you have a brick house or a straw house. If it's a brick house that can, withstand these challenging times. But if it's a straw house, you're going to have to make some changes.
Yeah, and I think it was also in one of those opening sessions about, or it was Tuesday afternoon with Wall Street Talks, Main Street Talks, and we heard from Blackstone, Brookfield, and they kind of talked about, hey, we're waiting to deploy our capital in hotels. We're not ready to jump back in, and that hotel investment pace has really kept going down and down. And 23, 24, when it was up in 21 and 22 because interest rates were so good. But those big private equity companies, they're looking at other forms of real estate. They're investing in data centers, was a big one, and multifamily. And so hotels are kind of taking a back seat for now, and everyone's kind of waiting for those deals to happen, whether it's restructuring debt or people are talking about the brand relationship with owners, and can we delay our pips again? But I don't know if that's going to happen. So there's a lot of confluence of factors out there about what could really spur the transactions market, and it seems like everyone's still being patient and they're not ready to take that risk because it's a risk, right? They're unsure of what's going to happen in the market because of all the volatility of the past 6 weeks. But a couple of speakers said, hey, there is reward to be had in risk. And some of the best decisions that we've made over our hotel careers have involved, putting a bet on a property, on a brand, on a deal that could go wrong, and then it really blossoms and turns into something great for them. So that was also good to hear. It was not just rose-colored glasses optimism, but it was no, this is we have experience in how this works.
I was going to say, I know we sounded, at least at the beginning of this, to be kind of Debbie Downers, but that is kind of the sentiment. There are people who are saying that this could be very interesting of a time to buy if you can swing the financing, but that's the challenge for everyone trying to buy. So there is a bit of positivity, and I think for me it was very interesting to see how much the pandemic is a part of the conversation still, because obviously it was a huge thing for this industry, a huge thing for every industry, but the parallels between those two times now versus then, I think everyone agrees we're in a better place than during pandemic times, but we've learned so much from that. I think that's a message I'm taking away too, is if the hotel industry can survive that, we're in a good place. We're already resilient and nimble is what people are saying.
Definitely. Well, this has been Hotel News Now, covering the Hunter Hotel Investment Conference. Please subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. And thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Hi, I'm Davon Reed.
I'm Omari Head.
And I'm Chris Henry.
We're the hosts of the Next Gen and Lodging podcast on the Hotel News Now podcast network. It's a monthly show in which we interview a new generation of hoteliers to get their insights into a variety of disciplines and topics, from finance to food and beverage and hotel operations. Listen to us on Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode of the Hotel News Now podcast network was recorded on March 20th, 2025 by Dan Kubacki and edited by Rachel Daub.